But if you're trying to beat the clock, your detail and your quality is probably not going to be there. But yeah, I mean, it does. You're right. It just takes forever to get in the mind frame.
The Ohio Painting Company podcast with the OPC founders themselves, Kevin Sillaman and Nick Goebel, clearly in an automobile. What's going on, fellas?
Well, the Ohio Painting Company is in the Columbus. We're in the heart of the Ohio State University.
Very cool. Very nice stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What part of Columbus?
Upper Arlington. So we got a call from a facility up here, manufacturing and abrasives, and they have an older plant. Structure's still good. It's all the original concrete structure, but they do a lot of superheating with steam, and they do a lot of mixing of adhesives and everything. So they've got resins and things that need to be cleaned up, and it needs an interior overhaul. So, on the satellite, it looks like a somewhat large facility. And when you get there and you see how it's broken up, it's like the difference between a house built in the 2000s and a house built in the 50s. Everything is compartmentalized and broken off. And I mean, how many times do we get lost up there? I mean, probably 3 or 4
Yeah, there
times.
were only 3 rooms. Yeah, it doesn't matter though.
By the time we wrapped up, Kevin and I, we couldn't hear each other. We're talking to each other on the phones, like walkie-talkies, like, where are you? Anyhow. But no, so we came up here to look at that, and they got a lot going on, and it'll be a project. And yeah, and our team, we're willing to travel. We don't make it up here that often yet. It's probably it's our next place that we'll be expanding into. Might be a year, might be 2 years out. Not sure. We're
could be the end of the year.
Could be the end of the year.
Could
be this project.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're already up here, so might as well call it. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense being called the Ohio Painting Company. You're not the Miamisburg Painting Company, so you can use that name to really push out through the state. So good stuff, and aspirations to further yourselves into Columbus. I hope all of that goes well. And
we want Akron, Youngstown, Toledo. Yep. We'll get there, just baby steps.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, best of luck to you. I can't wait to stick around and figure out how you guys are going to do it and how quick and how great it's going to be. So great stuff. But with the Ohio Painting Company podcast, a whole bunch of stuff that you didn't know you wanted to know about painting. We have it right here. And as we jump into spring, you're thinking about cleaning up the house, mowing the grass, doing all this exterior stuff to make your house look relatively presentable, that whole spring cleaning thing. And, a lot of motivation is baked into people right now. They're itching to get outside. They're ready to knock off any kind of icicles or snow, forget about the wintry past, and start thinking about the warm stuff.
It's funny you bring that up. We were talking about how the calls fluctuate with just the sunshine itself within a day.
Right, yeah.
If it's gloomy out until 11 o'clock, the phone you might be hearing crickets. And as soon as that sun pops out, phone calls like now. So yeah, we're all itching, just like you said.
Well, we're probably past that point now by the time this is broadcasting. But we just had a pretty big storm all over Ohio. Did you guys get that?
Oh yeah,
last night, or is that today for you guys?
Actually, no, it was yesterday and the day before. It made me realize that I do not know how to dig out landscaping because it looks like a moat. Gotcha. No drainage put in there. I'm an idiot. The guy that's trying to sell the house, and the landscaping beds are full of water.
Nice.
But, I need to study up on French drains. The whole thing with what you were talking about, though, Kev, that rain was intense. I mean, thunderclaps here and there. The majority of it missed us, luckily, but definitely got quite a bit.
It went right underneath us, so we lucked out there. It still rose the rivers, those are all up there. But it's a cooled down day for sure compared to the last few days, and we'll hope that the temps will get back up there. But yeah, it is sunshiny, so we'll I'm sure the phone's ringing off the hook, and it's a good time to be out of the office.
For sure. Yeah, I bet. Well, happy Columbus to you guys. That motivation that I was talking about, even to call the Ohio Painting Company, 937-409-4443, by the way, to get in touch with some painting pros in Southwest Ohio. But the whole thing about somebody looking at their house and noticing something that they probably noticed for a while and they finally want to get it done. They're in the car, they're heading to the store, they're getting ready to pick up a couple gallons of paint and some brushes and listen back to our old episodes, and you'll figure out which ones to buy. But the motivation that you have early on can easily start to fizzle away. And I mean, what do you do about that? You guys don't have a choice because that's what you do for a living. But for the person that's just, having to touch something up or put one coat of paint on a surface and they get halfway done and have to go do something else, how do you gain that motivation back?
Good luck.
Yeah, that is, I say we all fall short of the stick, right? Whether you want to consider yourself a center or anything else, like, nobody's perfect. So recognizing your deficiencies, the last place anything gets done is at our house. So we understand very well what that is like. And we have our standards that we follow within the company. And it's funny because you come over to our house and we follow those standards, but it turns out what should be, if we were just solely devoted to it, maybe you had 1 day or 2 day project and it turns into a 2 week project.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty common, and part of it is pacing yourself and pushing through. And but life is busier now for everybody across the globe than it ever has been, so that's tricky. But that's exclusively why we designed our residential to be, to communicate well and be a full collection of services, pain oriented, to get it done right, because the only way to do it really is to buckle down and force yourself to go through the mundane, because in the mundane, prep work and all that stuff is where you see those detailed results. So anybody can do it. Painting's not rocket science. We talked about that all the time in our client meetings and everything else. But it is all the detail is in the beginning, because that translates to what your results look like in the end.
Yeah.
So we're just like you and anybody else that you come to our house and look at the projects that we finish ourselves, and then look at the projects when we bring the guys into our house to get it done because we're trying to fill a gap in the schedule.
Yeah.
Anyhow, stay focused, and that's what we're paid to do, is stay focused and get it done.
Nick, you and I talked in the kitchen area of the Ohio Painting Company a few weeks ago. There's been several weeks ago now, but we were talking about, you get into something and you are dead set on getting it done, and your productivity is on on full, on max, and you were just kicking ass. And then all of a sudden you get one text message and you have to go take care of something that probably takes 10 or 15 minutes. And then that motivation you had is gone, and it takes hours to get it back.
Yeah. And it's not just the motivation, it's the focus, it's the mindset, it's everything. I mean, so, if you're doing anything at home, I mean, kids are going to grab your ear. I mean, even if you're in the middle of a conversation, I mean, that's part of upbringing and discipline. But so you can't avoid that. But almost put your phone on silent. Any project can be overwhelming, so you have to break it down into steps and focus on getting one step done right, and then you move on to the next one. So, expectation management and schedule management, those are two of the main things. And so clear your mind of the expectations of what you're going to get done in the day. It's nice to have an idea of what you want to go to and get done to pace yourself. But if you're trying to beat the clock, your detail and your quality is probably not going to be there. But yeah, I mean, it does. You're right. It just takes forever to get in the mind frame. Talk about a conversation. I mean, I lose track of where we are in a conversation when I get a text, and it takes me forever to get right back into it. But yeah, it's put it on silent and focus.
Yeah. Kevin, you might like this. I found a product online, and it was one of those Instagram ads, and they make them so good you have to click on them just to check the price, see how much it was. But it was like this dial. It looked like one of the new modern style thermostats that you'd see on the wall in somebody's house. I'm sure you've seen dozens of them. But you set it on your desk and you dial it up, to 90 minutes or 120 minutes, and then you hit start, and it's supposed to trick your brain into thinking, I'm not allowed to get up until that hits 0. And, that whole thing about the motivation to stay and work, I mean, honestly, that thing probably wouldn't work on me and any kind of attention deficiencies that I may have. But maybe it's a good idea. Do you have any tricks to keep your mind motivated and focused on one particular thing?
Well, I mean, just going back to the whole at the beginning of that. I mean, my bathroom. I was looking at pictures this morning, and there was I had to zoom in and kind of look at the tile to see if I had the border around the tile done yet, and I hadn't. But just the thought of that bathroom, probably 15 years ago, we redid our kitchen, and in the meantime, we put a new cabinet in the bathroom, put some granite in there, a new toilet. I put the tile all the way, to where the sink and the toilet could be put in, and it stayed that way forever. I had the fish where the soap dish used to be on the back wall of the shower because the soap dish fell off. So I needed a new tile. So I put a piece of tile that had a fish Nemo on it, and it stayed like that forever.
And that had the button, you press it and it sings a song to you and everything.
Pretty
like that?
much, yeah. Right on, yeah. But needless to say, like Nick just said, just 3 years ago, I ended up going on ahead and having the guys come in and just finish it up. and it is done. So, there's that. But yeah, you get sidetracked. It's easy to do. I was at a house I was at a house Monday, and the guy I pull up, we've got two estimates, one for the inside, one for the outside. I hadn't looked at what the estimate was yet, so I looked at the outside of the house. I'm like, oh, it must be inside. And I get in there and, I give him the quote, and I'm ready to walk out the door. And he says, well, you ready for the outside? And I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you have to paint? Well, he's one of those guys that are on it, right?
Uh-huh.
And there were probably only 4 spots, on his house that needed painted. But sure enough, we're going to paint it all again twice and get it done. I mean, and I'm talking, the front of this house looked pristine.
Mm-hmm.
But on the south side where he gets all the weather, and this particular angle anyway, he called it the south side. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It normally comes from the west, doesn't it?
From the west, yeah. I mean, typically.
Yeah. But then you have, on the south side is where you get full sun exposure all day.
Yeah, so that could be it too. But so there was a little bit of work detail there. But again, if it were my house, I would have been like, I've got at least 5 years on this, But so we gave him a price, and he took the bid, and he's on it, and that's the way to be. As far as a maintenance point of view, if you want to stay ahead of the game, I mean, really, just go on ahead and call the professionals or get up there and get it done. Because if you don't, luckily I have a brick home, and luckily I have a wife that didn't, yell at me forever, about the bathroom.
Yeah.
There's always bigger things to cry about.
Yeah.
Life isn't easy.
Yeah. I did do a trick though. So our soffits have always been white, so you can tell when they need painted, right? And this time I painted them dark brown, so any shadows from cracking or whatever, you're not going to see it for years.
Hey, good idea.
By that time, it'll need replaced anyway, and we'll just redo it. I live in a very small house, though. This guy could not do that. He was on it again, like I said, and that is the way to take care of your house. Try to get on it and make sure that you don't end up with rotten wood, and that your leaking doesn't come in from the gutters. Just all kinds of things maintenance wise. But the good thing about hiring a professional, most painters will come out and once they're on your property and they're starting the project anyway, they'll go on ahead and let you know what needs to be done. We do a lot of wood replacement, so it makes it easy for us to look for those details. But you take care of your customer, and it's a value. I mean, there's not a whole lot of people that are out there except to collect that dollar, and pretend it's done. But to us, we want to make sure that, once you do get started on the project, that we don't drop the ball, and we do pick it up, in the areas that you don't even know. This facility up here, one of the questions that we had to ask was, do you want us to retape some of the insulated piping that's come loose, in the project? And they had already gotten an individual bid to just re-insulate all the pipes. But
Wow.
it's a question. I mean, I'm just saying, those are the things we look for. We look for things that can help not only aesthetically, but the ones that are going to help for the maintenance of the long term. So anyway, I know that was a long-winded answer
No,
for
that's perfectly fine.
whatnot, but
There's some time, on that too, and there's what you want done, and there's what can efficiently be done, and sometimes you can get more done in one shot more cost effectively. It just takes a professional to look at it and their breadth of experience. And this particular facility here in Columbus, they have all these overhead sprinkler lines and pipes, and they wanted them individually painted because they didn't want to paint the ceiling. And it's an open joist type ceiling, corrugated steel, combination of that and concrete. And so they've had 2 other companies come in, and prominent companies and companies with big names, and this is what they're pricing. They're going to price this out at 3 coats, and to go blue and yellow. I'm like, well, that's actually, if that's what you want, that's great, but it's actually going to cost you just as much, if not more, to do that, because you have to clean it by hand and paint it 3 times by hand. It's like, if we go through and we clean it, we can spray all this out with a dry fall oil base that's going to seal it all up, and it's going to cost you probably less than just to paint these individual pipes. So now they're going to get to refresh their entire facility rather than just focusing on these pipes. And then you paint one thing, and then everything's relative. Ceilings might look good now, but once they don't look new anymore because of the newly painted stuff, then it just goes on and on. So
well, speaking of focus, you were pretty much out of focus that whole time because your hand was the focal point of
he
what you
does
were
a lot of
talking about.
this.
Oh, I know. We got John Madden over here. That's perfectly fine. I talk with my hands too. I have to sit on them a lot.
we're working on our Spanish, but I just joke with my wife. I speak Spanish with my hands. That's what I do.
Right. I got it. Point at stuff.
I am out of focus though. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
I
All
can't
right.
even see. Yeah. Yep. There we are.
We have areas that we start. Laundry room, perfect example, but we did a lot better on our second run in there. We went with this awful green. We thought it looked good when we picked it out. We put it on the walls, and we were like, oh my gosh, this looks terrible. But the motivation was gone to fix it, so we just left it, just like the glitter on the wall or on the ceiling in the kids' playroom. I'm not going to be the guy to get primer and ceiling paint. We lived with it for this amount of time. The next people can do it as well. They can do whatever they want with it. We just put it out of our head. But places like behind the dryer and the washer, we couldn't reach back there. We just left it the old color. Places behind the water tank and down in there, right next to the washer and dryer, we can't get behind that. We just left it the old color. So, because we didn't have any motivation to go back there. We don't throw parties. We don't have people touring through our house. We don't care.
Right.
And that was, I mean, how do you even get behind a water tank?
So that, oddly enough, again, I live in a very small house, and, we'd redone everything, and the guys are gone now. And I'm thinking, I open up the where the water heater and the furnace are. And I mean, it's just a mess. I mean, you can see bare drywall. This is a house built in the 50s. You can see bare drywall, that's never been painted. The drywall mud is, crumbling off the patch or, the seams. And I'm wondering, how in the world did nobody ever notice this? And we've lived in the house over 20 years. So, for me to just make it a non-issue, it was very easy. But once I did see that that it needed done, it looks immaculate. You could literally eat off the floor, the whole deal, right? But but behind the water heater and all of that, you just need to get a really thin nap roller, and get as far back as you can. I mean, the water heater's not going to move. I'm going to kind of call you out on the washer and dryer.
I know. Well, like I said,
it's like the refrigerator.
Like I brought back up the second time we did it, we took the washer and dryer completely out of there, and then we ran into a problem because we noticed that the tubing that the vent was not hooked up to the dryer for weeks.
Oh, wow.
I brought this up on the show because it was getting super
the humidity.
Yeah. And, the windows were condensating and the floor was slick. And we're like, what's going on? I mean, this washer and dryer is brand new. It can't be malfunctioning already. And when we pulled that out to paint, all of,
Sure enough.
I mean, 50 t-shirts worth of lint was back there
You're
because it
right.
wasn't exiting the house. So
Couple of lost socks and
yeah, absolutely. So we get all that cleaned up. It's sopping wet because it's shooting water out of the back of it too. Um,
So you have one of those steam ones?
oh yeah, we have that.
Okay,
And
yeah.
so I get all that cleaned up. It takes 45 minutes to get everything swept up, get the screwdriver, hook the pipe back up so it goes to the, outside of the house. And then I'm like, all right, that's done. And then we have to paint. So that extra step that I had to do, the repair that you discover behind the dryer, I thought that was the job. I was ready to go
Right.
lay on the couch after that. So, I mean,
I'll
I
bet.
I am so guilty about starting a project and not finishing it. And then
Yeah,
what's the one thing you say when somebody does come in your house and they see that it's not done? We're
exactly.
working on this.
Yep.
We're right in
Every
the middle
time.
of this project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for the mess. You need one of those. I just keep one of those wet paint signs and put it on the wall. Just keep it there.
Just keep the gallon of paint with the stir
Right
stick
there.
on top of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
We
pretty
actually
common
plan
thing
to do.
though. There's a guy online. He's called Dude Dad. He releases videos. You may have seen him. He's got a what's the name of that video? Couple more days construction company.
Oh, okay.
Everybody should treat themselves and go watch a couple more days construction company videos by Dude Dad. And
It's
that's
hilarious.
oh my goodness, yeah. It's like, why isn't this hand railing in there? It's like, answer is, I am going to put one in. Just give me a couple more days. And he goes around all the things we've just talked about. He goes to other areas of his house. While I was up here, I was going to paint the ceiling, but I decided to move the lights, and then I had to create another hole, so I created 4 more holes. And will it get done? Yeah, just give me a couple more days. He like flashes out 5.
Well, what he says was, he says, now I've got 4 new holes in my ceiling, and then guess what? I think I want to build a deck. So, so he went outside and he shows you the deck that he started building without the hand railings. So
Sometimes we look for that motivation in other projects. I mean, we get off of one, go to another because we're looking to, fill that sail full wind again. Sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't, and just creates more chaos.
That's normally a personality issue, but
hopefully you've got a graceful family and wife and or husband, and understanding friends, and it just is what it is.
The last thing I want to talk about real quick, we got about 6 minutes, but I'm sure you guys have seen the areas in people's houses where they did the DIY and it looks really good in one area and then it kind of just fizzles off. Doesn't look so good where they wrapped up. The start of the project looks good, but the end of it looks terrible. Because you can tell where the motivation was high and where it was low. They just wanted to get done and go watch television. Have you ever noticed that?
So I hate to dominate this, but and if this guy ever watches our podcast, which he'd get bored by this point, I'm sure. But so ever since I've known, he was the best man at our wedding. Okay. So anyway, so every house he's lived in, he does his own projects, right? And you can tell. You walk into the house and you're like, wow, this is nice. And it is. The design, aesthetically, it is beautiful. The tile color, everything about it. And then you start looking close and it's like, oh, wait, he didn't finish this over here, and oh my gosh, look up there. That's not done either. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, we definitely know those, but that's just a buddy. You can tell it pretty much every time you walk into a house. It's normally the one where he says, we need you to get this wall here, and it's one that he can't reach. You know what I mean? And then this area over here because I can't reach it, and everything else is done to that point. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they've painted the whole room themselves except for the up high.
I got it.
All
right.
Yeah. Did you just bid this out for us? Yeah, but we've got a $7,000. No, just kidding. Yeah. Minimum.
Right. Yeah. I figured you guys had seen that a couple of times throughout your career. And as we get to the end of the episode here, again, you guys in Columbus really making the name the Ohio Painting Company true to itself, as you guys are outside of where you typically get some stuff done in Southwest Ohio. So best of luck with all that. That's an easy trip, isn't it? 65, 70 miles up the road.
Yep. So I could run up 675 and we're there, and we're the exit after 675 on 75. So yeah, so it takes us right to our home,
Very
or right
cool.
to the house anyway, or to the shop.
Got it. Kevin Sillaman, Nick Goebel for another episode of the Ohio Painting Company podcast. I think I found the name pretty early on, and it was the name of this episode. I think it's going to be something like "Think Like a Painting Contractor," and then subheading, "Just get the job done," just
Just get it done.
Just get it done. Don't
For
leave
the love
anything
of
for
goodness.
later. Guys, thanks for coming on again, and we'll be chatting with you next week for another episode. But other than that, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, find the Ohio Painting Company there.
YouTube.
Like and subscribe on YouTube as well, and stay up to date with OPC, and give us a review on Podbean and Spotify for this here podcast. Gentlemen, safe travels when you head back to Dayton, and we'll be talking to you next week.
All right. Thanks, Brett.